brawn. Where have they disappeared? How is it that I am suddenly all alone?
Yeah, about that. You aren't exactly alone, Optimus.
Indeed, so it would seem, but I must admit, I am somewhat confused. Can any of you offer me explanations?
Were that possible, I would gladly offer them.
The bottom line is that none of us know exactly what's going on here, or why we've been brought to this weird location.
I believe that I may be able to clarify many things for you, if you are willing to listen.
Alpha Trion, so you are here as well.
I am Optimus, and shall serve as the voice of Primus himself.
Then let me begin the question session.
Such over-enthusiasm, Nova, but this won't work like a question and answer type of session. I promise you, everything that you're curious about will be addressed. But it may be best if you let me tell the story from the beginning. Our dear Primus is very weak from his altercation with Unicron.
With Unicron?
Oh dear me, I seem to have gotten ahead of myself. Our story actually begins in another time and place, another universe even. There, the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons spelt the end of life. Everything was decimated. Our beloved Cybertron fell, and in the end, the humans of a little planet called Earth were the final nail. And on that day, a universe perished. Still, unsatisfied with his conquest, Megatron built a machine that would allow him to move between universes and conquer there. He planned to leave by himself and abandon Starscream. Well, realizing that being the ruler of a universe with no followers was no way to live, Starscream opted to find Optimus Prime. And he offered him a deal. He would give Optimus the coordinates where Megatron was building his device, and in exchange, Optimus would mercifully extinguish his spark. It was a very difficult decision. But in the end, Optimus had to do what he had to do in order to confront his longtime foe one last time. Naturally, they tussled with one another, and they both ended up going through the interdimensional gate. As they traversed the void of nothingness between universes, they caught the attention and ire of Unicron. In the brief time that they were there, little happened other than Unicron forging a cerebral bond with an unwitting Megatron. Eventually, as though traversing through a wormhole, both Optimus and Megatron emerged in a new, untapped universe and crash-landed on the planet. In the end, both of them, unconscious, were recovered. Megatron by the Decepticons of that universe, and Optimus by the Autobots. Once awake, and wisely I may add, the indigenous Megatron made the other universe Megatron his subservient. This was easily done because the other universe Megatron was still suffering from amnesia and did not know who he was. Both Optimuses also met and worked together. All the while, everything was being watched by Unicron as he hatched his own scheme. Eventually, there was a confrontation. It was the first time since going through the interdimensional wormhole that the Optimus and Megatron would meet. And the Megatron had him bested. Until, that is, he took with a stroke of pain through his cranial unit. Unaware of what was happening at the time, he retreated. But this was the influence of Unicron. Soon thereafter, Unicron contacted the other universe Megatron. He explained to him who he was and offered a 3-step plan. The creation of the Matrix of Chaos that would give Megatron unmeasurable power, the cyberforming of the planet Terrestra, that universe's version of Earth, so that it could serve as the new Decepticon homeworld, and he wanted Megatron to build another interdimensional shunt device, one that he could use himself to enter this untapped universe. With his lust for power, Megatron jumped at the opportunity and saw it as brilliant. Little did he know that all along, Unicron's intention was to betray him. Believing in Unicron's plan, the two Megatron clashed, and the indigenous one fell victim to the new otherworld visitor. Wait, so Megatron betrayed Megatron?
That sounds like something he would do. Things only got worse from there, didn't they? We're talking about Decepticons. Of course they got worse, Optimus.
All right. Let's just let him finish the story. So, what happened next, Alpha Trion? That is an excellent question, Rodimus. First, the Constructicons were recruited to build Megatron's interdimensional gate in secret underground. In the meantime, the Seekers were dispatched to destroy the Decepticon detection grid. This was a ploy, a distraction if you will, to allow Soundwave to attack numerous factories in order to gain the materials needed to build both a cyberforming machine and to send to Megatron and the Constructicons for the interdimensional shunt device. While all of this was unfolding, the duo of Megatrons trapped an Autobot and gave him a message to bring back to the Primes. They wanted to meet them in battle. Little did the Primes know that this was a trap that had more of a purpose than they could have suspected. Eesh, that sounds bad. Surely they didn't walk into a trap. Sadly, that's exactly what happened. They were so desperate for answers for the chaos surrounding them that they went to meet the Megatrons. Naturally, they did so with a high level of caution. The cyberforming device came online thanks to the efforts of Shockwave and the Insecticons. Its dispersal system was ingenious, using modified cerebro shells from Bombshell. At this same time, the faction leaders clashed, and Megatron ripped the matrix of leadership from the chest of one of the Optimuses. Step 1, obtaining the matrix to be used for the Matrix of Chaos, was complete. Step 2 was also complete, for the cyberforming had started. The only thing left to accomplish in Unicron's plan was the interdimensional gate. The matrix of the indigenous Optimus was the one that was stolen by Megatron, and as such, he entered a very deep depression and reverted back to being Orion Pax. Feeling that he could no longer lead his Autobots, he put the burden of leadership in the hands of the other universe Optimus.
What happened to him? The one who reverted to being Orion Pax?
Nothing, I'm afraid. except start on a road of intense mental rehabilitation to come to terms with his new identity as Orion Pax. In the meantime, Perceptor and Wheeljack learned that the walls between different realities were breaking down, and the only way to set them straight was to send the Optimus and Megatron from the other universe back to whence they came. And in the meantime, Megatron had the Matrix reformatted into the Matrix of Chaos, so that the blood of Unicron would flow through him and he would feel that intense power. The indigenous Megatron saw this as dangerous. He could see the writing on the wall that only ruin could come from this. But the Autobots, yes, they knew that time couldn't be wasted, and it was set up that there would be an attack on the cyberforming facility and on this mysterious subterranean location. They, of course, didn't know at the time that that site was exactly where the interdimensional shunt device was being constructed. The battle waged at the cyberforming facility, and unfortunately there were casualties. Just as the Autobots were making progress, they encountered the indigenous Megatron, who had been injured in battle and now only had one arm. He was not going to let them pass to the inner workings of the facility until, that is, he encountered a strange occurrence where two Decepticons seemed to magically appear. In reality, these were Decepticons from yet another universe. As the walls were breaking down between realities, now you were having these peculiar flashes occurring. While the indigenous Megatron, knowing that this must be stopped, allowed the Autobots to pass. And thankfully, thanks to the efforts of Trailbreaker and Mirage, and despite the retaliation from Starscream and Shockwave, the cyberforming device was finally obliterated once and for all, but not without a high price. The indigenous Megatron met Prowl, and the two agreed that they would join Optimus and his team at the subterranean location, for that seemed to be the crux and the nexus, if you will, of everything that was coming to pass. The indigenous Megatron rounded up Shockwave, Starscream, and any other operational Decepticon still left at the cyberforming base. He had Shockwave build him a newer, stronger body before taking his forces to the subterranean location. In the meantime, the battle was already waging there as the Autobots had already arrived. An early warning team let Megatron and the Constructicons know about this. Megatron went underground while the Constructicons set themselves up to be a last line of defense. They were winning the battle when the indigenous Megatron and his forces arrived. The result was a confrontation between the indigenous Megatron and the Constructicons. Needless to say, he bested them rather easily. After all, he has so much experience from the gladiatorial pits of Chaon. And he called for a ceasefire. He, too, went underground. As it was, the other universe Megatron had gone underground, who was in turn followed by Optimus Prime, who was in turn followed by the indigenous Megatron. Needless to say, Optimus Prime showed up first, and the two old foes were once again face to face. This prompted Megatron to extinguish the sparks of his own followers, Soundwave and his minions. so that the battle between Megatron and Optimus could be pure, just as it should be. In the meantime, the ceasefire topside was not going well, as the walls between realities continued to break down, while the interdimensional gate grew stronger. More and more Autobots and Decepticons from various universes were basically overflowing into one. It turned into sheer chaos. Eventually, the indigenous Megatron also found his way to the inner sanctum. Seeing Optimus and the otherworld Megatron battling, he interjected himself. And he did score a rather definitive shot on his alter ego. But this was not good enough, for now that Megatron bearing the Matrix of Chaos was in essence a Dark Prime himself, and only a Prime could defeat a Prime. It was too late, and the other universe Megatron opened the floodgates between realities, and that is when Unicron himself appeared. Even the indigenous Megatron was appalled at what he was seeing, as Unicron's realm of nothingness overtook everything. All universes, all streams of reality were finally collapsing into one beautiful chaos. Just imagine every incarnation of Optimus Prime, of Jazz, Hound, Megatron, Galvatron, Cyclonus, every transformer of past, present, and future that there has ever been, finally clashing. Unicron was so proud of the elegance of what he had masterminded, even if it was unsustainable. The battle was ferocious. At times, it was even difficult to know who was friend or foe. But one Optimus recognized that the true root of everything that was happening was Unicron, and the only one capable of standing against the Chaos Bringer is our dear Primus himself. As such, every Matrix bearer was called upon. Naturally, each Matrix contains a portion of Primus's own spark. Perhaps if those portions coalesced, Primus could be shaken awake, brought together full strength, so that he could confront his brother. Little did anyone, even Primus, realize that this was exactly what Unicron wanted. He didn't care about Megatron having power from the Matrix of Chaos. It had only been a mechanism to ensure Megatron's compliance and solidify his grasp over the Decepticon leader. He had no intention of sparing Terrestra and allowing it to be a Decepticon homeworld. He planned to obliterate it. All he wanted was the interdimensional gate, so that he would have easy access to this untapped universe. And he wanted to face Primus. Here in the midst of his beautiful oblivion, his art, if you will. Primus called together all of the sparks of his children, all Transformers that were present in the void, within his own body, so that he could once again be at full strength. This was exactly what Unicron wanted, for nobody knew this, but Unicron had left one universe untouched, so that he himself could escape from the void. His intention was to go to the outer world, in the one universe that still remained, an omniverse, if you will, and abandon his brother in the prison where he had been trapped himself for oh so very long. He struck an incapacitating blow on Primus. Well, Primus knew that his brother intended to abandon him and every transformer that there ever was in the void, nay, for a couple of harbingers that Unicron held onto himself. Primus expelled all of the sparks in a last-ditch effort to save as many of his children as possible. Unicron passed through the void, as did many of the sparks, including the four of you. In order to save his children, all incarnations of a particular bot were melded into one, which means every Optimus Prime that ever was is within you now, Optimus. Every Sentinel Prime that ever was is within you. Same for you, Nova, and for you, Rodimus. But not all sparks escaped. I didn't. Primus certainly didn't. But many did, both Autobot and Decepticon. Beware, though, for Unicron does exist in that universe, and though he must be in a weakened state, undoubtedly the day will come when he will rear his head again, and you must be prepared for that, possibly without Primus. But fear not, all hope is not lost yet.
How so? And how do you know the details of this incredible story?
I am recounting to you as Primus himself recounted to me. He is extremely weakened, and he has the knowledge thanks to the memories of all of the sparks that he took in his body. Somehow, he managed to make order out of that chaos. And now here's the big surprise. None of you are actually here. This is a psychic link that Primus created so that I could relay not only this story to you, but his instructions. From the four corners of the universe that you are currently residing in, you must all make your way back to the coordinates where Cybertron once nestled itself in space. And using the four artifacts that you all hold. At the location that was once the Well of All Sparks, you will be able to release Primus from this prison. Be warned, though, there are likely to be many dangers along the way. And, undoubtedly, when you reach the coordinates, what you see there will not be Cybertron, as you know it. Now then, you must act quickly. Take the Chalice of Wisdom, the Matrix of Leadership, the Cog of Strength, and the Torch of Time and Velocity. Reunite them in the Well of All Sparks, and release us from here. Go now, and I wish you safe travels in your journeys to come.
So what do you think, Bumblebee?
I honestly don't know, Braun. He's just been standing there, kind of in a daze. Should I try talking to him?
Couldn't hurt.
Hey, Optimus. Hey, are you okay, Prime?
I was otherwise indisposed. I'm sorry. But to answer your question, no, Bumblebee, I am not fine. There is a new threat rearing its head. We need to go home now.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Perceptor, Wheeljack, when we get back home to base, those guys will fix you right up, Prime.
No, not the base. I mean home. I mean we